Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss, so let's waste no more time. Hashtag it up, ODPH. The biggest news story of the week had to be those NFL moves happening right before week one.
God forbid they, release this information when we're getting ready to record. Of course it comes after we finish recording.
I think it's a setup. I think that
it has to be at this point.
Way too much. But the big move that kicked off the week had to be Aaron Rodgers' contract.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Well worth it. Pat, why don't you break the numbers down for us?
4 years, $134 million, signing bonus of $57.5 million, average salary of $33.5 million, just a little over $79 million guaranteed at signing. Total guaranteed is just shy of $98 million. Holy good gracious.
Well worth it. You can't deny Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can argue with Brady.
Yeah.
But Rodgers, for what he means to that team.
We'll say without Rodgers, the Packers aren't in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Rodgers makes his team that much better and that much of a playoff contender. He goes down for the season, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
They're done.
Yeah.
The season's a wrap.
We'll say as much as I would like Brady to close out a game with like 2 minutes left, if it's like 5 seconds left and they're 60 yards out from scoring a touchdown, I want Rodgers.
Rodgers is the guy. Rodgers is the MVP. He is the one that definitely earns that contract every time he's on the field, because no matter what the team is looking like, he wills them to win.
Right.
He just has an intangible that no matter what the score is, you feel like there's still a chance to win late in the fourth.
Oh, yeah.
And he proves it time and time again. And like we say, he is doing this with an average line.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have a great line in Green Bay.
No.
And I don't think anybody can argue that. It does just enough to give enough protection. And he is one of those few quarterbacks that makes every receiver on his team a viable weapon.
Mm-hmm.
That he doesn't have a true number one on his team a lot of times, but he makes good receivers great.
Yeah.
He makes great receivers superstars.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's just how he does. And you look at how, when he came in and sitting behind Brett Favre for that many years, he learned the craft. And
learned from one of the best.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when you can implement that to your game, look at the success he's had.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can't argue that contract. I don't struggle with that at all. You had to pay him.
It's the gift a lot of people and teams, no matter what sport you're in, it's a luxury a lot of people don't have. Where you look at a team like Dan Marino, Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, where like they were great players. They were difference makers on their team. And a lot of times what followed them was okay. Had some success, but wasn't nearly at the level that their predecessors were. You look at what Rodgers has done, I'd argue it's right up there with Favre.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I think he might even surpass him.
But, yeah, more than likely.
Without question. He is just that good, and you had to pay him. You had to keep him in Green Bay. If you let him go for whatever reason, that team would be, losing. I don't want to say like a definitive losing, but their status in the league, you would definitely be struggling to regain that, that luster.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Rodgers is just that impactful to that team. He is the face of that franchise.
I think it would also turn the players against ownership or the head of the organization, where we've got our franchise guy. We've got our guy who's supposed to stay in Green Bay, golden green, for the duration of his career. And you let him go? I think had they not have re-signed him, and potentially through the end of his career, because as it sits, he's 34 years old. This contract goes through 2023, where he will be 39 years old. Now, granted, there's a potential out in 2022. This arguably could be the last contract of his career.
Oh, yeah. And, he is one of the guys that stayed with an organization when he could have left.
Oh, yeah.
And you can argue, he could have got, a more balanced team around him, I guess you could argue, that he stayed and he wants to win in Green Bay. He does not really care about going to a bigger market. He plays in a small market team, but the Packers are a loyal fan base. They're a very good organization. They try building through the draft a lot. You don't really hear about a lot of free agency, crazy signings to them. Once in a while you will, but for the most part, they try really building through the draft. And without question, Rodgers keeps them relevant in the league.
I'll say they'll build through the draft, but then they also, any trades or signings they might do, it's something minor. It's nothing major like, this AAA, 5-star, lineman or wide receiver is coming to Green Bay. No, it's just, they got traded to Green Bay.
No, they got traded. Like, you look at the Jimmy Graham signing.
Yeah.
That's probably the most flashiest offseason move they've done.
In a while, yeah.
And look at what's going to happen this year. I mean, you have somebody of his talent going to Green Bay. Rodgers has you would argue he'd be the number one receiver on the team.
You would think.
You can argue that.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show about how Rodgers spreads the ball out to everybody, and he makes everybody on his offensive side of the ball relevant. It's just a matter of the line can hold up. That's the only question mark you have really with Green Bay.
Yep.
Their defense will keep them in games. There's no question of that.
Yeah.
But with Rodgers, that's just a different element on the field. And you know that if the game is close, you give him the ball with 2 minutes left, you're in trouble.
Right. And it's one of those things like the defense does nothing stellar. The defense will get the job done. They're serviceable. But it pays to have a guy like Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball where you don't always have to be shut down, lights out defense. It helps. It's great. But you can take a little bit of comfort, a little bit of solace knowing, hey, we'd like to stop this guy. And if we do, awesome. But if we don't, we got Rodgers on the other side. We're not totally out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, congratulations to him on a great contract signing. And like we were saying, to let him go would have been devastating to the franchise and to the fan base. You take a look at a situation like Oakland.
Yep.
And the move that happened there.
Oh, boy.
Pat, why don't you break that down?
I'll say Rodgers maybe sitting at home counting his millions, looking forward to the season. I think he's got a little something to keep an eye out on the opposite side of the field for him in terms of Chicago, because the Oakland Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears and then immediately re-signed him to a 6-year, $141 million contract. Holy cow.
This was really puzzling for me to see the face of the Oakland Raiders right now. Their star defensive player get traded.
It was ugly.
I mean, this was just one of those things that I don't think anybody really won if you're an Oakland fan.
No, I know the Oakland fans aren't happy about this. I saw one photo, and you see this more often these days. Rather than the burning of the jersey, they put a note on the jersey. And there was a fan in Oakland who had a signed Khalil Mack Raiders jersey in a glass-covered case, and he took it off the wall, set it down, opened it, had written a note, put it on the jersey. It said, "Thank you, Khalil," and then put another one on top and said, "Oakland is dumb."
Exactly. I mean, in my opinion, this was a bad move for Oakland, a great move for the Bears.
Yeah.
Oh, without question.
Oh, God,
and they got him locked up long term.
I'll say, because remember what we were saying last week, the Chicago side of the defensive side of the ball wasn't really anything stellar. Nothing, gone are the days where, you look at some of the guys from 2005, 2006 are there.
Mm-hmm. This is one situation that, Mack is going to help a young team on the rise.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a great move for them because Chicago has a lot of young talent that you need a veteran presence. And Mack is, he's still relatively young. I believe he's
27.
He's 4 years in the league, I believe. He is going to provide a veteran leadership on that team. He's going to get thrusted into it, but it's nothing he can't handle.
No.
And for the defensive side of the ball, Chicago needs that because their offense is very young. They are going to be on a team on the rise in the next few years if Trubisky pans out. They have a great running back in Howard, and they have some other additional weapons on that side. But for the defense, Mack instantaneously helps that defense out.
I was saying, Chicago wanted him badly because you look at the details of the trade. Of course, Chicago got Khalil Mack, and they sent their 2019 first-round pick, 2020 first-round pick, 2019 sixth-round pick, 2020 third-round pick, 2020 second-round pick, and their 2020 fifth-round pick. holy good gracious almighty, Chicago ain't going to have nothing the next few years for drafting.
But they're really not going to need something.
No.
That's the thing. I mean, when you shore up your defense with Mack, and like we said, they still have a lot of young players on that side of the ball. They really don't need to necessarily go really deep in a draft,
right,
to rebuild. I mean, they're in that stage right now. But with Mack being signed, you know that position's taken care of.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that's going to help their team, especially in your division with Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins and Matt Stafford. You're going to need somebody like Khalil Mack on that side of the ball.
Oh, yeah. And
for Oakland, this is more head-scratching than anything.
Right. And I know I read a couple articles where the GM for Oakland said, he didn't want to do it, but there was nothing they could have done. He was kind of insinuating they tried everything.
I mean, we play armchair quarterback here, and I'm sure any sports show you listen to.
Sure.
This one just doesn't add up to me, I guess. If Oakland felt that there was no chance of bringing Mack back, they did the right thing and moved him. Right. And they got a lot back for him in draft.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't argue that. But I guess I'm looking at it as John Gruden is now the first-year head coach there.
Yep.
I mean, he's been away from the game for a while.
And game's changed a little bit.
The game has changed a bit. I mean, this almost reminds me of like when Joe Gibbs came back to Washington.
Yeah.
That you have a coach that has a lot of success in his first run.
It's a household name. Everybody knows the name.
Yeah. Or, he's been away from the game for a while, but you remember how he left.
Right.
And now he's coming back, and you think the expectations are that high, and that the game should still just, be like a snap of the fingers, and everything should just come back like riding a bicycle.
Right.
It's not happening.
I don't think so.
So I think that with Gruden coming back, I mean, there's definitely a shift in, the philosophy that the Raiders are going to have. And if he felt, the management felt that they couldn't re-sign Mack, they did the right thing by moving him. But it just seems like, how can you let a player of Mack's caliber go?
Man, I don't know. It makes no sense to me that you look at a guy who's 27 years old. He's got the prime. If he's not in the prime of his career, he's on the cusp of it. This is a guy that has the potential to just wreak havoc on defenses and just put up crazy statistics, and you just let him. Now, granted, they did get a king's ransom back for it, and congratulations to them. But you can't help but wonder if this is going to be one of those trades that you look back on and go, man, why did you let him go?
I think so. I mean, in my opinion, I think that this is going to haunt the Raiders for a while. And I just don't see how they just couldn't get a deal done, because it wasn't like Mack was screaming, I want out.
No, he was kind of relatively silent. I think the only thing we ever heard out of the guy was before he got traded, he tweeted something to the effect of, I miss football.
Yeah, that I think that he wanted to stay, and just, I mean, he definitely was a true Raider. I mean, true and true. There's no question about that, and he loved playing there, and it just felt like he didn't want to go, but you understand, though,
right?
When sports becomes a business, it becomes a very unique situation.
Yeah, it gets a little messy sometimes, but
it comes with the territory. I mean, anytime that you're dealing with a business, it's never easy, and there's decisions like this that have to be made.
Right.
Like we say, this is just going to be one of those situations that going into week one is going to be a lot of eyes watching Gruden and the Raiders and seeing how they react to this.
I'll say there was already a lot of attention and focus being put on the Raiders simply because of Gruden is coming back. He's stepping out of the booth. This just added to it.
Absolutely, and this is going to be something to watch, because like I was saying, though, this is like, and for me, this is the only comparison I can make. This is like when Gibbs returned to the Redskins after the long hiatus off.
Yeah.
That is it going to be something for Gruden, who's been gone for a while, even though he's been doing TV? Is this going to be something he can jump right into and just pick up where it's left off, because the game has changed a lot? It's going to be something to watch. And going into week one, we can't wait to watch. But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts on the big NFL moves this week? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and we got to talk a little baseball.
Yeah, because a few interesting things went down in the last week or so. Well, we had the NFL show. Now, I know you may be wondering, how did some people get traded? I thought the trade deadline was at the end of July.
Mm-hmm.
You're correct. The traditional trade deadline is at the end of July, but there is another way you can still trade teams. It's called the waiver trade deadline. Essentially what happens is, now I'm reading this from MLB.com. It's an article a couple years old. It's from 2017, but it still works the same. So how do these trades work? It's important. Now, this quote, it's important to note these teams expose most of their players. So essentially you could have a team, I'll just say the Baltimore Orioles, the last place. They will put anyone who's not on the disabled list on the waiver wire. It's not uncommon. It's happened in years past where you have a team with a couple of good players where like it's eyebrow raising. Like, oh, so and so is on waivers. Well, yes, that's because the entire team is on the waivers. So what happens is when a player is on waivers, other teams can submit a claim. So we'll use the Baltimore Orioles. You know, if they put Adam Jones on waivers because they'll put their whole team on the waivers. Mm-hmm. You as let's just say you're the Seattle Mariners going, hey, you know what? Our outfield needs a little suspect. We need to shore up a few things. Why don't we put in a waiver on Adam Jones? But let's just say I'm the St. Louis Cardinals and I go, hey, we're close. We need just that one player. You know, you look at Justin Verlander last year for the Houston Astros. You know, we're one player away and we're really going to make that push. Why don't we put in a claim on him? So what happens then? Well, you're in the same league as the Baltimore Orioles, you would get first priority. And if you get a certain amount of time, I believe it's like 24 hours or so, to work out a deal to trade the player. And if that doesn't work out, then I get the priority. But if it's, let's just say in this case, I'm not the St. Louis Cardinals, I'm the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
Then it would go down to which of us has the worst record, then you get priority. So that's kind of the way it goes down. And then once you get to the end of the month, August 31st, done. Trades are done. Can't do nothing. Because anybody dealt after August 31st, you can't play them in the postseason. So by and large, most teams that are making waiver trades are teams that are either in the playoffs or real close to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be really dealing anybody after the August 31st.
All right, so going with that, there were some moves that happened after the trade deadline. So the waiver deadline has come and passed.
Yep.
Where did players end up, Pat?
Well, you look at one interesting one. Josh Donaldson was traded from the Toronto Blue Jays to the Cleveland Indians.
Now, that I think helps out both teams.
Yes, without a doubt.
Cleveland could definitely use another bat in the lineup. If Donaldson's healthy, he's definitely going to do some numbers out there. And for Toronto, you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the farm system, so that you've just cleared the path for him to come up.
Right, and he's been hitting the cover off of the baseball. If you haven't been looking at his stats, I know News and kind of his legend has been growing in the minor leagues. It's rather frightening. You look at what he did. He started off the year in Double-A with New Hampshire, where he hit .402. with 60 RBIs and 14 home runs in 61 games, which is absurd.
That's impressive.
So naturally, he got promoted to AAA Buffalo, where in 30 games, he has hit .336 with 16 RBIs and 6 home runs. Now, and I think at one point he hit like 4 home runs in 5 games or something absurd like that. So everyone's been going, why isn't he in the majors? He was hitting 400 ball in Double-A. Well, that's because Donaldson was there, and Donaldson's an all-star. Path is now clear for Vlad Guerrero Jr. to get to the majors, which being September, I think it's and you get the usual September call-ups because the roster expands a little bit, and you can bring up some minor league players because the minor league season is now over for a lot of teams. I think it's an all but certainty you will see Vlad Guerrero Jr. up at some point this month.
It's just a matter of time. I mean, if he's not called up for whatever reason, which I'm with Pat, I think it's just a formality at this point. Mm-hmm. He'll be up, and to get him some major league experience before next season can only help him. I mean, he's been absolutely crushing it. We saw him down here playing the Rumble Ponies.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely going to be an all-star to be watching in the future. So, I mean, there's no question about that. Mm-hmm. And some other moves?
Yeah, so then the other interesting one was there was one point where Bryce Harper was on the waiver claims or whatever you want to call it. Waiver wire. And a couple teams have put in a claim on him. I believe the Philadelphia Phillies were one of them. and I think there might have been one other one, but nothing worked out. One that they did put on the waiver wire that did go through was they sent starting pitcher Gio Gonzalez to the Milwaukee Brewers. Now you look at Milwaukee, as we record, they are 78-61. They're 4 games out of the division behind the Chicago Cubs. And then you look at the wild card, they are leading the wild card out west with a 1.5 game lead over St. Louis. So they're right there. You know, they clearly think their pitching needs just a little bit more, and Gio Gonzalez is going to be the guy to fix that. So that was an interesting one.
He's a good move for the Brewers. I mean, that can only help him, especially the NL wild card is very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely want to make sure your lineups are as loaded as possible, because as we're coming down the final stretch, every game matters that much more.
Well, so yeah, I get the feeling that National League wild card isn't going to be settled until the final game of the year, because you look at it, you got Milwaukee and St. Louis are 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are a game out. Arizona's 2 games out. Philly's 3.5 out, and then you drop back to Washington, who's 7 out. There, you got 3 teams right there sitting just on the outside looking into the wild card that can really make a push.
Yeah, and I mean, that just makes baseball that much more fun. I mean, because anytime, I will say this, the wild card has really elevated the game since it's been implemented.
Yeah, and you look at some of the wild card games, you know, I keep bringing up the Rangers and Blue Jays a couple of years ago. That was the most exciting game I've ever watched that wasn't New York Yankees related.
Oh, no, and especially because anytime it's playoffs, no matter what sport you're in, it's just that much element of excitement and, you know, intensity. So to see a 1-game playoff, loser goes home, I mean, the stakes are all, it's a Game 7 rolled into 1.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just the easiest way to put it. I mean, your season is on the line, so you got to do whatever it takes to win, and you just kind of see what team implements their will.
Yep. It's
always great to watch. And for Milwaukee, it's good to see them making some moves, telling their fan base, hey, we're in this to win.
Yeah, we think we're close enough. We're not going to roll over and play dead. We're going for it.
Absolutely. So, you know, kudos to them. A great move to get Gonzalez.
Yeah, and then, of course, the other one, our New York Yankees got Andrew McCutchen from the San Francisco Giants.
Now, this one, I had to do a double take when we got him.
Yeah.
I will admit, because, I didn't think that McCutchen was going to move, and let alone come to the Bronx.
Right.
But this also helps a very crowded outfield that is very injury-prone, it seems.
Yeah, because you look at Aaron Judge, who we should know is swinging a bat.
Mm-hmm.
He was swinging the bat yesterday before the game in Oakland. So you've got Aaron Judge, who's hurt. Giancarlo Stanton has been playing with a multitude of injuries throughout the year, but he's, much like Kobe Bryant that one year where, he had the busted thumb. He played through much of the season with, he's been playing through injuries. And then you just look at everything else with the outfield, it's definitely an outfield that you wouldn't think had these issues going into it, but yeah, he definitely shores that up. It's an former NL MVP. I went down to the Yankee game on Sunday to see them play Detroit. Man, he might have some years on those tires, but he can still field. He made a sliding catch in the right field that wasn't your prototypical slide. Look up the highlight. It was an incredible catch that the whole stadium just erupted for. He can and plus, to that point, he hadn't gotten his first hit yet. He almost crushed a ball. I believe it was to left center that, where the wind, I think the wind was blowing in just enough that it knocked it down a little bit. Had that wind not been blown, it'd have been out.
I mean, McCutchen can still play. There's no question of that, and he can only help that team because, like we said, they've had their fair share of injuries on the Yanks, and especially at the worst possible time post All-Star break.
Right.
So for them, I mean, they're going to have to fight to get in the wild card. It's looking very shaky at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little shaky. I mean, you look at, of course, the struggles against Boston and everything, but Boston's just been on this historic run. I mean, let's give Boston their credit. Congratulations to you guys. That's a heck of a run. Can't wait to see you guys hopefully see you guys in the playoffs and hopefully beat you. But I mean, yeah, I don't think the Yankees are going to get the division at this point unless Boston just goes on this ridiculously bad run at the end of the season. Of course, everyone is comparing them to the 98 Yankees, where the Yankees won, I believe it was 112 or 113 games. But of course, they were honoring that team a couple weeks ago, and Torrey and Paul O'Neill and David Cohn and all them were saying, listen, we could have won more games, but we went on a bad run that last 2 weeks. They were projecting that team to win 122, but they lost those last 2 weeks.
Well, it's one thing to win in the regular season. It's another thing to win in the post.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is built to win in the post.
They don't hand out championships in the regular season.
Exactly. They're having a great regular season,
Yeah.
and they've been very lucky. The injury bug hasn't haunted them as much. I mean,
No,
it's
they've had a few.
They've had a few here and there, but nothing, catastrophic.
Right,
to them.
Gary Sanchez going down twice. You look at Didi Gregorius, who should be coming back after this series in Oakland when they go to Seattle, from what general manager Brian Cashman was saying. But you look at that, you look at Hicks had his, I think it was an oblique or something in the beginning of the year. Judge, Stanton with his stuff going on. It's just been one thing after another that's just, man, oh man, they can't catch a break.
Right, and that's why the move with McCutchen was so surprising, that you get somebody of his caliber off waivers, and that instantly helps your team.
Right, and I know I was talking to a few people where they were like, oh, this shows that Judge isn't really ready to come back. And I'm like, nah, I don't necessarily think that. I think this is them saying, listen, we're going to give Judge all the time in the world that he needs to come back at 112%. That he doesn't have field, so that he doesn't feel he has to rush to come back just to help the team. Plus, you look at who they were plugging in Shane Robinson in that outfield, and just how awful he was in that outfield. It really says something about a guy that you bring up to plug into that right field position, to fill in for Judge, and then you take your infielder in Neil Walker and plug him into right field for like the first time in his major league career.
Right.
It just made all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, this move makes a lot of sense. And I think it only helps them, and especially they're going to make a run to the postseason. You want somebody that is going to produce. That, especially with the Yankees, they have so many guys that just hit home runs, and they live and die by the home run.
Yep.
That you need somebody that's going to hit some singles and some doubles to get on base. You're going to need that. McCutchen can do that. I mean, he's got some power in his bat too, but you're looking in comparison like Stanton and Judge and Sanchez. Those three guys, it's home run or nothing.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how they are. I mean, there's not a disrespect to them. It's just that's what they bring to the table. But you need to get the guys on base so they can knock in some runs too.
No, yeah. I mean, but like I said before, the waiver trade deadline is always something interesting. There's always a couple interesting ones. I mean, thinking back, you look at 1992 when the Mets traded David Cohn to the Blue Jays for Jeff Kent. I mean, you look back at 2012 where the Red Sox unloaded everyone.
Yeah.
Where they traded Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, Nick Punto to the Dodgers. Of course, we brought up, Justin Verlander got traded, and I mean, just a whole bunch of other stuff. Waiver trade deadline is always something interesting. You think the trade deadline's done? It's not.
No, it definitely isn't, and it definitely adds a different element to the game, because with baseball, this is like the final chance for your team to either make or break your season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be like in a case like Bryce Harper, where if he gets put on waivers and a team claims him, they're going to get a player to be named later, or players to be named later, or cash value of some kind of compensation. Because if it's somebody that you don't think that you're going to be able to re-sign,
right,
then you have some wiggle room.
We'll say this isn't going to be like some elementary schoolyard card trade where it's, oh, hey, I'll give you this really rare card, and all I want is a nickel.
Yeah, it's going to be something, that you're going to get something, at least something in return.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward in the postseason what moves are going to pan out.
Right. It's always interesting to look back at not just the trade deadline, but the waiver trade deadline. What moves end up panning out, because you look at Justin Verlander getting added to the Houston Astros last year. I don't think they would have gone on the run that they did without him. Yeah, they would have made a run. Yeah, they would have gone far. I don't think without Verlander's veteran presence and just his stone cold demeanor, on the mound, that's almost Andy Pettitte-like at times. I don't think they would have gone and won the World Series.
No, I mean, adding Verlander was the thing that put Houston over the top. There's no question about that. They needed somebody like him to come into that clubhouse and say, we can win and we're going to do this. And he was hungry to win.
Right.
And he wanted, you can definitely tell when a player shows up on a field if they really want to win or they're, going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that every night he shows up and he wants to win.
Yep.
And that only helped Houston in their final run there. Because when he gets in his zone, he is very tough to beat.
I would say very tough to beat when he's throwing like 100 miles an hour in the 8th inning.
Yeah, but that's just what he brings to the table. So, I mean, that just goes to show you how waivers can either make or break your team heading into the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be something to watch. So, hashtag ODPH. Tell us what waiver moves worked and what didn't. We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH. The greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH, and it is fight time in the UFC.
Oh, boy.
UFC 228 live from Dallas, Texas this weekend. Only on pay-per-view unless you have a ticket to the show. And 2 title fights definitely worth talking about.
Oh, boy.
Ultimate Fighter Season 26 winner, Nico Montano, is defending the women's flyweight title against Valentina Shevchenko.
Okay, you have me at Shevchenko.
Now, if you've seen Valentina fight, you know that she is very well tested in the bantamweight division.
She's seasoned.
Yes, she has wins over Sarah Kaufman, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena. And the only one that has really given her trouble has been her 2 losses to Amanda Nunes.
Yep.
So that being said, she's stepping down to flyweight. She's had 1 fight there that we know of. And she has looked impressive there, and she looked downright scary.
Yeah, just a bit.
So to see her in this flyweight title fight, Pad, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I kind of look at it this way. You read off some of her more notable wins in the bantamweight division, such as Juliana Pena, Holly Holm, and the only real person who's given her any issue is Amanda Nunes. I figure if you can beat Pena, you can beat Holly Holm, and you can stand toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes. Yeah, they might be close in skill set, or you're picking them to win. But I think if you can stand toe-to-toe with Amanda Nunes and beat Holm and Pena, you're getting a little bit of a bump up in my book.
It's definitely going to be a competitive fight. I mean, Montano winning the Ultimate Fighter is definitely a feather in anybody's cap, because it is one of the most grueling competitions you're going to go through. Especially, you can say what you will about reality TV, but that's about as real as it gets, no pun intended. So, and to see her fight on the show, she definitely is going to scrap. And Shevchenko, we've already read her pedigree out there. And she is going to be a force at the flyweight division. I'm excited for this fight. I think it's going to be Shevchenko in a very well-contested bout.
I'll say, but I wouldn't necessarily sleep on Nico, though. I mean, you look at her record from when she was running through Ultimate Fighter, she won all her fights via decision, so I would not be surprised if this fight goes the distance.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think that this is going to be the biggest test to her UFC career thus far that we've seen, and it could go a lot of different ways. I think, though, Shevchenko has been in this battle before, and I think this might be a better weight division for her. And to see what she can do at flyweight, I'm definitely excited to see.
Yeah.
The main event of UFC 228.
Oh, boy.
Tyron Woodley is defending against Darren Till.
Oh, boy.
Now, I know that there has been a lot going on with this division, and Colby Covington, wasn't able to fight, or, whatever the drama is there, because that's the only thing I think I can call it. But you have Tyron Woodley coming back, stepping up to fight Darren Till. Pad, what's your thoughts on this?
I feel like Woodley's just going to come out like a man possessed and looking to take somebody's head off, and unfortunately, Darren Till's going to be on the receiving end of that.
This fight has a lot going on with it. Now, Woodley has been the champion for a while. I mean, you can go through his record of wins and losses, and you definitely know where he is. I mean, honestly, if anybody can knock out Robbie Lawler, you have my attention.
I'll say I'm treating you very respectably.
Yes. So that being said, let alone, I mean, he had the draw with Stephen Thompson, the ultimate win against him, and then his fight against Damian Maia, a lot left on the table there.
Yeah.
But take nothing away from his skill set.
No.
Tyrone can definitely stand in there with anybody at the 170 division. There's no question of that. Darren Till has been, kind of an up-and-coming superstar on the rise, and he's had a lot of, notable wins against Don Cerrone. And, say what you will about the fight against Wonder Boy, Stephen Thompson. It was more of a technical battle. It wasn't exactly, lighting, the internet on fire.
So the barn wasn't burning.
No, but it definitely did enough that it showed that he could definitely hang at a championship level. It's just one of those fights that, could have gone really almost either way. But he definitely earned his shot, and going into it, he's got a lot of hype behind him. Albeit, though, there was the weight cut issue that has come up, and I've already heard a lot of noise about that as well. Cody make weight. If he doesn't, will Woodley fight him? There's going to be a lot of drama with that.
Right.
I think this fight is definitely going to go in Woodley's favor.
Right. I mean, because you look at it. You look at his last fight was in July of 2017. So he's had a year plus with all his injuries and everything going on. not defending the belt and having all the talk, all the stuff with Colby Covington being the interim champ and everyone questioning when he's coming back. Can he still fight? Can he still, lead the division? I just think he's dealt with all that. And to my knowledge, he's been very polite about it, very quiet about it. He hasn't really gone, I still run this division or something to that effect, But I think he's going to want to get, if I'm Colby Covington, if I'm Tyron Woodley, I'm going to want to come in there and just say, hey, I haven't lost. The belt is still mine. This is my division.
He has been talking a little bit, though.
Okay.
He has definitely been, if you follow, he's been appearing on TMZ a lot.
Oh, okay.
Just giving some interviews there. Woodley is not afraid to get in there with anybody.
Right.
And for me, the big match is him versus Covington. That's the fight I want to see. That being said, he's got Till in front of him going into Saturday night. I think Woodley is going to implement his wrestling, and I think this is going to be, a majority decision to Woodley.
Right.
I think Till is going to scrap with him. Till is definitely going to be up for the challenge of the fight. There's no question about that. He's going to throw some hands, and he's hungry. He definitely wants this fight.
Right.
But I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at Woodley, and like you said, he's coming off a lot of injuries. Some injuries and whatever. He hasn't been fighting lately. He's going to come in there just like
he's hungry.
A house on fire there. He's going to just come in and just be, absolutely ready for the fight.
Right.
That being said, like I said, he's going to implement his wrestling. I think he's going to be doing some takedowns. I think that we haven't really seen a lot of Till defending from his back. He's been able to outstrike everybody he's gone against, and that will help him. But overall, if Woodley gets his wrestling going, I think it's going to be a long night for Till.
Right, and it should be noted, of course, Colby Covington is, as we record, the interim title holder. Dana White did tell ESPN that as soon as this fight is over, no matter who wins, Colby Covington will be stripped of his interim title.
All right, if he's going to do that, are you going to just put Covington in the next title bout? Because then why do you need to even strip him?
Right.
I don't understand that move.
I think it's just because you look at what happened with Woodley, and now you look at what happened with Covington needing nasal surgery, for something going on with his sinuses. I think they're just trying to avoid a potential another scenario with Conor, where Conor was holding up the belt for now. Obviously, apples to oranges in terms of reason.
There's differences here.
Apples to oranges in reason, but I think they're just trying to avoid another log jam at that division with champions hurt, interim champions hurt. What do we do now?
Well, I think, Ari, if you're going to strip him there, I guess that makes sense if Woodley or Till is going to be your definitive champion.
Right.
But I think regardless of who wins this, you have to give the match to Covington after this.
Yeah.
You have to. So whether you strip him or you don't, it doesn't really matter because then it would be, quote-unquote champion versus champion anyway.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to watch. Like I said, I do like Woodley in this. I do like Till as a fighter, though. Don't get me wrong. And I think if he'd be better off almost at 185 because I think the weight cut issue is going to play a factor, too.
Yeah, I'm not slighting Till by any means. He's a great fighter. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in this opportunity to win the belt. But I just think with everything going on, everything in the background that Woodley's been hearing, he's hungry. He's going to come out firing.
Oh, yeah. Woodley, I think, has a lot more to prove. And if he really wants to be in contention for that super fight against Covington, which it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's arguably the best fight you're going to make at 170, without question. And, I hear about these talks about, trying to divide up the weight divisions, 165, 175, and nonsense like that. No, I'd say you just keep it at 170 and then see what they can do. Because Woodley is talented enough. He could go up to 185 if he wants to as well.
Oh, yeah.
Be real interesting to watch. But for this Saturday night, I got to go with Woodley.
Same here.
Let us know what you think, though. Hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts on UFC 228? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince, the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
Radio attack, taking 4 steps forward and no steps back.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH. And Pat, what you got for that local minute?
Well, sadly, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies season came to an end this week. They finished out their season with a record of 64-76, finishing in towards the bottom of the division. Of course, the Trenton Thunder finished in first. New Hampshire Fisher Cats finished in second. Congratulations to the Binghamton Rumble Ponies on a great season. I know we went to a bunch of games. They were all a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Next season can't come soon enough.
No.
I mean, even though we're talking football, we're going to be talking hockey pretty soon with the Binghamton Devils, basketball with the Binghamton Bulldogs.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot going on, but, there's nothing like going to a Rumble Ponies game.
I'm saying fear not if you're kind of feeling a little empty on sports locally in the 607. It is just a little over 1 month until opening night for the Binghamton Devils.
Yes. So there'll be a lot of stuff going on in the 607, and we'll keep you up to date here on the ODPH. So time to go round those bases, or dare I say, let's go for kickoff here, because it is football season, as we were talking on this week's edition of the ODPH.
Yeah, it is.
And if you listened to last week's episodes, and I did say that plurally because it was a two-parter for talking all NFL, we discussed we were doing a little something different here on the Locks and Leaps Invitational. Now, this is something we're going to be posting on our Facebook page, so if you're not following us on Facebook, make sure you do so you can stay tuned to all the action that's going on there. But our Locks and Leaps, we have to declare for Week 1 of the NFL. Those invited to the Locks and Leaps Invitational are going to be making their picks on the site. So without any further ado, we're going to say what our picks are for our Locks and Leaps for Week 1. So mine, I am going with the Rams -4 over the Oakland Raiders. Simply put, the Rams defense is going to be ready to go and make a statement, and honestly, we don't really know where we're going to get out of the Oakland Raiders.
This is true, and like we said in last week's NFL preview show, the LA Rams defense is the stuff nightmares are made of.
And speaking of contracts, Aaron Donald got paid too as well. We didn't really go digging into that too much, but finally his contract is well deserved. And that's one headline that's out of the Rams' way, so they can focus on some football. And I think Oakland's still going to be in shock of Khalil Mack getting traded.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a rough one out there in Oakland for opening night on Monday night. So I am taking the Rams with that. And I know I'm going to make Coach Duffy proud with this one. I am taking the Giants +3. This is all according to ESPN.com for the point spreads, by the way, over the Jags.
Ooh, okay.
I think Jalen Ramsey has opened up a can of something that Eli is going to be targeting him. They got Saquon Barkley ready to go. The line is improved.
So Barkley's going to want to truck him into next week.
Well, I think, speaking of contracts, we talked about Odell Beckham Jr. getting paid. He's going to want to make a statement out there. I think the Giants are going to pull the upset out. I know that everybody's looking at the Jaguars' defense to slow down everybody, but you know what? It's going to be opening day. There's going to be a lot going on. I got to go with the Big Blue Wrecking Crew.
Yep.
See what happens.
Looking at my lock, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints 9.5-point favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at Jameis Winston is suspended. I believe Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting. You don't really know what you're going to get out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I'm definitely going to take the New Orleans Saints to win it all and in big fashion. Then looking at my leap, I'm looking at the Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons, to play spoilers on the opening night game in Philly. Of course, they are a 2-point dog, but I'm thinking they're looking to really kick that whole stigma of they can't get over that Super Bowl loss. They're just going to want to kick it in the teeth and come out with a big win while the entire world is watching.
Like we talked on last week's episode, this is Atlanta's make or break season. I think they're going to come out swinging. Philly is starting Nick Foles, if I'm not mistaken, as quarterback.
Yep.
So Carson Wentz is not back just yet.
Not cleared yet, if I'm not mistaken.
But we'll see how much of a Super Bowl hangover there is in Philly. I do like the Falcons, too.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's going to be a close game. And like I said, I think the spread reflects that as well. It could go either way. It's going to be opening day for the NFL.
Yep.
It's kicking off this Thursday night. And then we get into Sunday and then doubleheader on Monday. It's so good to have football back. So we can't wait to start talking about that each and every episode of the fall here on the ODPH. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH. We'll see you next time.